Welcome to basketball season. I'm Dollar B. Just kidding. Don't call me Dollar B. We're outside of Value City Arena. Basketball season starts in like 94 days. So today was Ohio State's basketball media day. No D'Angelo Russell, no Shannon Scott. That's probably bad for Ohio State. No Amir Williams, no Trey McDonald. Probably some people pretty happy about that for Ohio State. Doug, you've been covering this team for a very long time, like 92 years. How long's it been?
11 years. That'll be my 11th year around Ohio State basketball.
That's big. That's big. This feels to me like a rebuilding project with all the guys I lost and new guys I have coming in. I don't know where Ohio State's going to finish in the Big Ten because the season doesn't start for another month. But your general vibe as we wrap up media day, you've been around this team a long time. What are your thoughts right now?
So I've been here for every season of Thad Matta except this first year, and I've spent a lot of time in the past decade, like saying to people, "Hey, like they're not Duke. You can't hold Ohio State basketball to the same standard as Ohio State football. It's not national title or bust. Like, this is a tremendous era of Ohio State basketball. They compete with Michigan State at the top of the Big Ten. They've won multiple league championships under Thad Matta. They go to the tournament every year, basically. They go to the Sweet 16. They've been to a couple Final Fours. And for the first time, I don't know that that's the expectation out there or even in here. And I think that will make for a potentially interesting year, because the other thing that's been the case in this last decade of Ohio State covering football and basketball is the football has been bad. The Big Ten is bad at football. We talk about that every year, right? And the basketball is good. So if you aren't good in Big Ten basketball, you can get down in the standings in a hurry. Right. And Maryland might be the #1 team in the country. Like, we make fun of the fact that Rutgers and Maryland are in the Big Ten in football. It's like, oh, by the way, Maryland's going to be #1 in the country in the preseason in basketball. It's like, thanks a lot, basketball. Like they actually brought in competent basketball teams, and the football team gets 2 free wins. So this really might be a team that struggles to make the tournament, could finish definitely in the bottom half of the league, but there could be some very interesting stuff because basically everybody's a freshman.
Right, and that's going to be something that I write about tomorrow on cleveland.com in the morning. But Ari, you've studied the Big Ten top to bottom. I know you have. You know the ins and outs of every program. Where will Ohio State finish? No, I'm just kidding. What's your vibe about this team right now?
What I think is, like, Urban's always going to want to take the top talent available.
Right.
And
wrong sport.
Oh, not football recruiting. Okay, what was the question, Dallaby?
Your outrageous prediction for Ohio State, Maryland. Just your vibe after media day of what you know with this team and maybe what you know with the Big Ten. What do you think this season might be like for Ohio State?
It's going to be an interesting season because whenever you lose a guy like D'Angelo Russell, and they have Jaquan Lyle coming in, and I think he's supposed to help replace him. But there's 4 people that we were allowed to talk to today because they're the only 4 people who have ever played a game here, and all 4 of those players have shown some good things, but none of them have been reliable in any way, shape, or form. So I think that just goes to what we were talking about, just the idea of having to rely on people that haven't produced before, and then maybe the crux of the team that's going to be whether they're a competitive team in the Big Ten or a bottom half team in the Big Ten weren't available and haven't played yet. So ever since I've been on the beat, this is year 6 for me, which is unbelievable. They've always been good. They've always had very good players. They've always had NBA guys. They've always been a Sweet 16 or further team. And I think it's important to maybe temper the expectations, especially considering we don't really know who's going to be the main producer on this team yet.
Right. I think. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm gonna just want to add something because I wrote this at the time when they signed this freshman class that's coming in, that they could have been looking at a Final Four type of team
this
year. And then D'Angelo Russell left.
Yeah.
So as much as we're saying like it's a complete rebuild mode, I think there are pieces here that if you put, the best player in college basketball on the roster, you would have a lot of interesting stuff around him. So they have everything they need except the best player in college basketball who's now hanging out with Kobe Bryant.
And it's important. It's probably important to say, too, that and it's been documented, we've written about it, but D'Angelo was not, in Thad's mind, supposed to be a one-and-done player. So this team was supposed to be, with D'Angelo, one of the best teams in the country, but you lose a guy early, and this is what happens.
And I think that's maybe going to be the theme this year is we don't have the guy who can cover up the holes on the team. We don't have the guy who can carry us through the Big Ten, even if we're not maybe good enough to finish in the top half. I don't know if Jaquan Lyle's that guy. I think the other freshmen they bought in are good pieces and will be good role players. But there's not that dynamic star So I think you could be looking at this year maybe as more of maybe what you looked at last year is that projection of what it can be 2 or 3 years down the road without that star on the team. But that in the short term means that this season may not be so enjoyable for Ohio State fans and might end up with the Buckeyes in the middle of the Big Ten. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to cover. We'll see. You guys have anything else to add before?
Well, I just want to say that I think you don't want to sell him short. I mean, you don't. Thad Matta is a very good basketball coach. There's talented players here, but I think it would be interesting for fans. I think it could be an interesting year if the fans come in with the right idea, which is like all the stuff we just said, and then maybe you might be surprised. It's just at Ohio State, that doesn't happen. Like in football, it never happens. It never can happen. We're covering a football team that's currently 5-0 and the #1 team in the country, and we are criticizing them and people are complaining about them. It cannot happen in football. It has not happened in basketball for the entire Thad Matta era, okay? So it's new territory, but if you don't expect them to win the Big Ten, maybe they can be interesting, a little surprising, a little bit of fun. They just might not be as good as Maryland and Michigan State and Michigan and Wisconsin.
And the fun thing about basketball is teams who don't win their conference still have a chance to be very exciting in the postseason. So even if it's bumpy along the way, maybe they can backdoor their way into the tournament or get into the tournament and do something fun by the end of the year.
Or maybe Jaquan Lyle will be playing for the Sixers by this time next year when we're showing this video.
Injured, big man.
We'll see. We'll keep giving you coverage on the basketball team as it gets closer to the season, and obviously sticking with the football team too. Ohio State hosts Maryland this weekend. We'll have more throughout the week with predictions and stories and stuff like that. So thanks for sticking with us throughout the football season. Get ready for basketball. For Ari and Doug, I'm Bill. Thanks for watching.